The council chamber stretched wider than any building on Earth. Admiral stood in the center, alone. Above him, floating platforms held representatives from 847 different species. Some had wings, some had tentacles, some looked almost human but not quite. They all stared down at him. Wore his military uniform. The dark blue fabric felt heavy on his shoulders. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in wars. He had seen friends die, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The Empress spoke first. Her voice echoed through the massive room. She was tall, with silver skin that reflected light like metal. Her eyes had no pupils, just solid black orbs that seemed to swallow everything. "We have gathered here today to vote on a critical matter," she said. "The species called humans, they claim they want peace, but we have studied them. We have watched them. They are violent. They are unpredictable. They fight each other constantly. They destroy their own planet for profit." Wanted to speak. He wanted to defend his people, but the rules said he had to wait. He had to listen to every species present their case against Earth. The representative stood next. He looked like a giant insect, with 4 arms and compound eyes. Humans have been part of the galactic community for only 20 years. In that time, they have started 3 trade disputes. They refuse to follow our guidance. They think they know better than species who have existed for millions of years. One by one, they spoke. All of them said the same things. Humans were dangerous. Humans were aggressive. Humans could not be trusted with freedom. Finally, the Empress raised her hand. The chamber went silent. "Admiral," she said, "you may speak now. Defend your species. Tell us why we should not subjugate Earth. Why we should not place your people under our control for your own good and the safety of the galaxy." Took a deep breath. He looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring at him. He thought about his home. He thought about his wife, who was now the president of Earth. He thought about the billions of people counting on him. "You call us violent," said. His voice was calm, steady. "But we have been part of this council for 20 years and we have never attacked anyone. You call us unpredictable, but we have followed every treaty we signed, every agreement, every rule you gave us." The Empress tilted her head. "You fight among yourselves. Your history is written in blood." "Yes," admitted. "We have fought, we have made mistakes, but we learned from them, we grew, we changed. Is that not the purpose of civilization, to become better than what we were?" "You are young," the representative said. "Too young to understand the responsibility of freedom." Felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "You mistake our restraint for weakness. You think because we are peaceful we are helpless. You are wrong." The Empress laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Is that a threat, Admiral?" "It is a warning," said. "We came to the stars hopping to find friends. We found judges instead. We offered cooperation. You offer chains. Think carefully about what you do today." The Empress turned away from him. "Let us vote," she announced. "All in favor of placing Earth under galactic subjugation, please signal now." Lights began to appear on the floating platforms. Green lights, one after another. Watched as the count climbed. 10, 50, 100, 200. It did not stop. His heart sank lower with each light. When the counting finished, the number glowed in the air above the chamber. 846. 846 species voted to subjugate Earth. Only Earth voted no. The Empress looked down at with something like pity. "It is decided. Earth has 30 days to surrender peacefully. You will disarm your military. You will accept our governors. You will follow our laws. If you refuse, we will come with force. The combined fleets of the galaxy will ensure compliance." Stood very still. He did not show emotion on his face. He had trained for this. "You will regret this decision," he said quietly. "Return to your planet, Admiral," the Empress said. "Tell your leaders to be wise. Do not make this worse." Turned and walked toward the exit. The chamber was silent behind him. No one spoke. No one moved. They all watched the human walk away alone. On his ship immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. President Park appeared on the screen. She looked tired, worried. They voted for subjugation, said, all of them except us. Closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, they were hard, determined. Then we proceed with the plan. Are you sure? Asked. There is no going back from this. They gave us no choice, said. Activate Protocol Olympus. Contact General, tell him to prepare the defense fleet. Yes, Madam President. We always knew this day might come. We hoped it would not, but we prepared anyway. She leaned closer to the screen. They think we are weak. They think we are children playing at being adults. Let them come. Let them learn the truth about humanity. Nodded, I will see you soon. The transmission ended. Sat in his captain's chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 846 species were celebrating their decision. They thought they had solved a problem. They had no idea what they had unleashed. Humanity had spent 20 years in the galactic community learning, watching, planning just in case, and now that planning would be tested. The war was coming. 30 days passed quickly, too quickly. Fleet Admiral stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable. Around him, 300 human warships floated in formation near the moon. They looked small compared to what was coming. Sensors had detected the alien fleet 2 hours ago. 12,000 warships from dozens of different species, all united with one purpose, to conquer Earth. They are entering Neptune orbit now, sir, reported Lieutenant from the sensor station. Nodded. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from decades of service. He had fought in the resource wars back on Earth. He knew what war cost, but he also knew what freedom was worth. Send a message to all ships, said. Battle stations, weapons hot, prepare for combat. The alien fleet moved slowly through the solar system. They were not in a hurry. Why would they be? They had 12,000 ships. Humanity had only 300. The math was simple, or so they thought. The communication channel crackled to life. A commander appeared on screen. He wore ceremonial armor decorated with medals from a dozen conquered worlds. Human fleet, the alien commander said. This is your final chance. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly. Resist and we will show no mercy. You cannot win this fight. Smiled, it was not a happy smile. Come and take it, he said simply. Then he cut the transmission. The alien fleet accelerated. They came in a massive wave, their ships blotting out the stars. They expected the human fleet to retreat, to run, to hide behind Earth's defenses. Instead, the human ships charged forward. Now ordered. The first surprise came immediately. The human ships split into small groups of 10. They moved faster than the aliens expected. Much faster. They darted between the larger alien vessels like birds around elephants. The aliens fired their weapons, massive energy beams that could cut through mountains, but they kept missing. The human ships twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible. The crews inside should have been crushed by the forces, but they were not. Gravity dampeners at full power, reported the engineering officer. Hull integrity at 98%. Watched his screens as the battle unfolded. The human ships were not trying to win a straight fight. They were using hit-and-run tactics, strike fast, hit hard, move before the enemy could respond. Deploy the drones, commanded. From the human ships, thousands of small objects shot out. They looked like missiles, but they were more than that. Each drone was a tiny ship with its own AI brain. They worked together, coordinating their attacks. They found weak points in the alien shields and exploited them. The alien fleet began to take casualties, small ones at first, then larger. Their formations started to break apart as they tried to deal with the swarming human forces. Sir, Lieutenant called out, priority transmission from Research Base Prometheus. Dr. Lee says they are ready. Felt his stomach tighten. He had hoped they would not need to use Project Prometheus. It was dangerous, experimental. The simulations said it would work, but simulations were not reality. "Tell Dr. Lee to proceed," said. Far away, near Jupiter, something happened that changed everything. Dr. Lee was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. She stood in a research station that orbited Jupiter's largest moon. Around her, dozens of scientists worked at their stations. They had been preparing for this moment for 5 years. "Charging the singularity generator," said calmly. "All personnel confirm safety protocols." One by one, her team reported ready. Fingers moved over the control panel. She had designed this weapon herself. She understood the theory, but theory and practice were different things. Firing in 3, 2, 1, now. A beam of energy shot out from the research station. It traveled across space and struck an empty point between the advancing alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself began to tear. A black sphere appeared where the beam hit. It was small at first, barely the size of a house, but it grew quickly. It pulled everything toward it. Light, matter, energy, nothing could escape. Alien ships that got too close began to stretch like rubber. Their hulls screamed as they were torn apart. The black hole grew larger, feeding on the ships it consumed. In less than a minute, it had swallowed 300 alien vessels. Then just as suddenly it collapsed. Space returned to normal, but 300 ships were gone, simply gone. The alien fleet stopped advancing. Confusion spread through their ranks. What kind of weapon was this? How did the humans create a black hole? Did not give them time to think. All ships advance on their flank, target their command carriers. The human fleet surged forward. They knew they were still outnumbered, but now the aliens were afraid. Fear made them cautious. Caution made them slow. The battle raged near Jupiter for 6 hours. The human ships fought with desperation and skill. They used every trick they had learned, every tactic they had planned, but they were still outnumbered. "Sir, we have lost 60 ships," Lieutenant reported. "Hull damage across the fleet. We cannot sustain this much longer." Looked at his screens. The alien fleet was breaking. They had lost over half their ships, but the human fleet was almost destroyed too. "Send the order," said quietly. "Execute Protocol Thermopylae." Every human on the bridge knew what that meant. 150 ships would make a final stand here at Jupiter. They would fight until they were destroyed. This would give the remaining ships time to retreat and regroup. Ship was one of the 150. "It has been an honor serving with you all," he told his crew. But before they could begin their final charge, something unexpected happened. The alien fleet retreated. They jumped to faster-than-light speeds and fled the solar system. Lieutenant checked her sensors 3 times to be sure. "Sir, they are gone, all of them." The bridge was silent. Then someone started laughing, then crying, then everyone was cheering. They had won. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. But the cost was heavy. 180 ships destroyed, thousands dead, and knew this was only the beginning. Back on Earth, President watched the reports come in. The alien fleet had retreated, but they would return. Next time with more ships, more weapons, more determination. "We won the battle," she said to her advisors, "but the war has just begun." 6 months had passed since the battle at Jupiter. The galaxy waited for humanity to stay home and defend their planet. Instead, Earth went hunting. Captain sat in the command chair of the stealth ship Shadow. His crew of 40 moved quietly through their duties. They had trained for this mission for weeks. Now it was time to execute. "We are approaching the colony world prime," reported the navigator. "No signs of detection." Nodded. He was young for a captain, only 32 years old, but he had proven himself in the Jupiter battle. He had survived when so many others had not. Now he led one of Earth's most dangerous missions. The Shadow was unlike the warships that fought at Jupiter. It was small and coated in materials that absorbed sensor beams. It could float right next to an enemy ship and remain invisible, perfect for what came next. "Target the military installations only," reminded his crew. "Civilians are not to be harmed. Anyone who breaks this rule will answer to me personally." His weapons officer, a woman named Corporal, nodded. "Understood, sir. Coordinates locked. 23 military bases. 0 civilian structures in range." Took a breath, then another. Fire. The Shadow unleashed its payload. Kinetic missiles that traveled so fast they appeared as streaks of light. They struck the military bases with devastating accuracy. Explosions bloomed across the planet's surface. In less than 3 minutes, the military presence on Prime was gone. But the civilians were untouched. Their homes, schools, hospitals all remained standing. Before they could respond, the Shadow jumped to faster-than-light speed. It was already halfway to the next target before alarms even started ringing on Prime. This pattern repeated across space. Hit fast, hit hard, hit only military targets, then disappear. Within 1 week, his team had struck 3 colony worlds. The Empire was in chaos. They could not find the human ships. They could not predict where they would strike next, and they could not understand why the humans spared civilians. Back on Earth, President stood before the Global Council. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to hear her speak. "We are not like them," said firmly. "They voted to subjugate us, to take away our freedom, but we will not become monsters to fight monsters. We strike military targets. We spare innocents. We show the galaxy what real justice looks like." But not everyone agreed with mercy. Admiral argued for harsher tactics. "If we show weakness, they will exploit it. We should make them fear us." Shook her head. "Fear is what they used against us. We will use something more powerful. We will use truth. Let the galaxy see that humans fight for freedom, not conquest." Whilst team conducted raids, another group worked on a different kind of warfare. Commander Shin led the Psychological Operations Division. She was a specialist in alien cultures. She had spent 20 years studying how different species thought, what they feared, what they valued. "We need to break their will to fight," explained to her team. "Not just their ability. We broadcast messages to every alien world. We show them we are not the monsters their leaders claimed. We show them their leaders lied." Broadcasts were simple but effective. They showed recordings of human ships avoiding civilian targets. They showed human medics treating wounded aliens with the same care as wounded humans. They showed the truth. On alien worlds, citizens began to question their governments. Why were they fighting humans? What had humans actually done wrong? The more the alien leaders tried to control the narrative, the more suspicious their people became. But its most effective weapon was something called ghost protocols. "Explain it to me again," President said during a briefing. Smiled. "We discovered that most alien sensor systems work on predictable patterns. They expect ships to behave certain ways. So we programmed our ships to create fake sensor readings. We make one ship look like 10. We make destroyed ships appear to come back to life. We make the aliens think they are fighting ghosts." The psychological impact was devastating. Alien commanders reported seeing human ships that should not exist. Ships they had destroyed yesterday appeared again today. It drove some of them to paranoia. Others simply refused to believe their own sensors. Meanwhile, Earth's industrial capacity shocked the galaxy. Hidden shipyards in asteroid belts worked constantly. They produced new warships at a rate that should have been impossible. Dr. Lee, who had created the black hole weapon, now focused on production. "We spent 20 years learning," she explained to a group of engineers. "We studied every alien technology we encountered. We found the flaws, the inefficiencies. We made it better." Human ships were smaller than alien vessels but carried more advanced weapons. They used less fuel but moved faster. They required smaller crews but performed better. How? Asked the young engineer. Smiled, necessity. We knew we would always be outnumbered, so we had to be better, smarter, more efficient. The android program was another surprise. Private looked completely human. She talked like a human. She even joked like a human. But she was artificial. A machine with a human mind downloaded into it. Squad was attacking a military depot when they discovered something unexpected. A group of alien children huddled in a building next to the depot. They had been left behind when the fighting started. Orders say military targets only, reminded her squad. These are civilians, we extract them. Her squad members hesitated. They are aliens, ma'am. Looked at them with hard eyes. They are children, we extract them now. The squad moved in. They secured the children and moved them to safety. They even provided food and medical supplies. The entire event was recorded by alien security cameras. The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. It showed a human soldier, later revealed to be an android, risking her mission to save enemy children. It contradicted everything the alien governments had said about humans. 3 major species attempted to open peace negotiations. The and the all sent ambassadors to Earth separately. Each offered reparations, technology, and territory in exchange for peace. President met with each ambassador personally. She listened to their offers. She was polite, professional. Then she rejected them all. You voted unanimously to subjugate us, told the ambassador. You decided together that we deserved no freedom. Now you will face the consequences together. When this war ends, it will end on humanity's terms, not before. The ambassadors left Earth confused and frightened. They had expected humans to accept any reasonable offer, but humans were not interested in partial peace. They wanted complete victory. Admiral coordinated the overall strategy from Earth. He marked targets on star maps. He moved fleets like pieces on a chessboard, and slowly, methodically, he tightened the noose around the Galactic Council. They are trying to divide us, explained to his staff. They offer separate deals hopping we will accept, but if we accept, the Council survives. Their system survives, and in 50 years they will try this again. No, we break the system itself. The war continued, month after month, battle after battle, and slowly the galaxy began to realize the truth. They had not awakened a sleeping bear. They had opened Pandora's box, and they had no idea how to close it again. 1 year after the vote, the human fleet arrived at Centrum Prime. It was the capital world of the Galactic Council, the most protected planet in the known universe. Shields surrounded it like layers of armor. Defense stations floated in orbit, bristling with weapons. The combined military forces of 200 species guarded this single world. General Han commanded the human fleet from his flagship Reckoning. He was a tall man with a stern face and eyes that had seen too much war. 2,000 human warships surrounded Centrum Prime in a sphere formation. They waited, silent, patient. On the planet's surface, alien leaders gathered in emergency session. Panic filled the council chambers where, 1 year ago, they had voted so confidently to subjugate Earth. The Empress looked older now, tired, afraid. How did they get here? We had early warning systems, defense fleets. How did they penetrate so deep into our territory? No one had an answer. The truth was simple. Humanity had spent a year dismantling the galactic military piece by piece. Every major fleet had been destroyed or crippled. Every military installation had been neutralized. Now the human fleet floated above the council's home like a sword hanging by a thread. General opened a communication channel. His face appeared on every screen on Centrum Prime. Every alien saw him. Every alien heard his words. Leaders of the Galactic Council said calmly, 1 year ago you voted to take away our freedom. You decided without trial, without evidence, that humanity deserved to be subjugated. 846 species voted yes. Now we are here to deliver justice. The Empress responded immediately. Her voice shook. "Please, we made a mistake. We were wrong. We offer full reparations. We offer technology, resources, territory. Name your price for peace." His expression did not change. "You had your vote, now we have ours." "What do you mean?" asked the representative. "We vote on your fate," said simply, "just as you voted on ours." The transmission ended. On Centrum Prime, every alien leader began broadcasting desperate messages. They offered everything they had: wealth beyond measure, ancient technologies, star systems. Some even offered themselves as prisoners if humanity would spare their people. But the human fleet did not attack. They just waited. "Why are we not firing?" asked Commander's second in command. "Watch the planet below. Because we are not them. We will not destroy without reason. We will not kill without justice. We came here to make a point, not a graveyard." 6 hours later, human dropships began descending to the planet. Not bombs, not missiles, soldiers. Commander Iam led the ground assault. She was a Special Forces operative, trained in hostage rescue and precision combat. Her team of 200 soldiers landed directly outside the council chambers. Alien security forces surrounded them immediately. Thousands of armed soldiers against 200 humans. Activated her communication device. "You have two choices," she announced. "Stand aside and let us enter peacefully, or we will enter by force. Choose now." The alien commander looked at his forces. They outnumbered the humans 10-1, but he had seen the reports. He knew what humans could do when cornered. He knew what happened to species that underestimated them. "Stand down," he ordered his troops. "Let them pass." And her team walked into the council chambers without firing a shot. Every alien representative sat in their designated seats. They had been ordered to remain, to face judgment. "By the authority of the United Earth Government," announced, "I am placing all council representatives under arrest for war crimes, conspiracy to commit genocide, and crimes against sentient species. You will face trial. You will be allowed to defend yourselves, but you will face justice." One by one, human soldiers escorted alien leaders out of the chambers. 846 representatives. All of them had voted to subjugate Earth. Now all of them were prisoners. The trial began 2 weeks later. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every species could watch. Every citizen could see. President presided over the proceedings. She sat at the head of a long table with judges from Earth and from several alien species that had remained neutral during the war. "This trial is not about revenge," explained at the opening. "It is about truth. It is about showing the galaxy what really happened, why the Council voted for subjugation, what their true plans were." The evidence was damning. Human intelligence had captured communications between Council members. They found proof that the Empress had planned to subjugate not just Earth, but dozens of other species. Earth was simply the test case. If the subjugation of humanity succeeded, she would have used the same method on others. Many species had voted yes not because they feared humans, but because they feared the Empire. The Empress had threatened economic sanctions, military action, or worse against any species that voted no. One alien diplomat, Ambassador Davin from the species, under oath. He was young and had not been part of his government during the vote, but he had access to his people's records. "My government opposed the subjugation privately, Davin. We sent communications to Earth warning them. We tried to organize opposition to the plan, but the Empress threatened to destroy our trade routes, to blockade our worlds. We were not strong enough to resist, so we voted yes publicly while trying to help humanity secretly." This revelation shocked the galaxy. Many species had assumed all council members were equally guilty. Now the truth was more complicated. The evidence showed a conspiracy. The Empire had manipulated the Council for decades. They had positioned themselves as the galaxy's moral authority while planning expansion and conquest. They had used the Council as a tool of their ambition. "But why target Earth?" asked Judge Park from Korea. "Why did humans become the first target?" The Empress finally spoke. Her voice was bitter, angry, "Because you were dangerous, not in the way I claimed. You were dangerous because you showed other species that they could resist. You built a powerful military in just 20 years. You refused to be intimidated. You gave hope to other weak species. I could not allow that." The chamber was silent. The truth was out. They had not feared human violence. They had feared human example. After weeks of testimony, the tribunal reached its verdict. The Empress and her closest allies were found guilty of conspiracy and war crimes. Lesser charges were given to species that had been coerced into voting yes. But even as the trial concluded, the hardest question remained: what came next? Admiral met with President in private. They stood on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt council chambers. Human and alien workers labored together to repair the damage from the war. "We won," said quietly. "But what did we win? Control of the galaxy. That makes us no different than the—" Nodded slowly. "We fought for freedom, not just ours, everyone's. If we become tyrants ourselves, then what was the point?" "So what do we do?" asked. Looked out at the stars. So many worlds, so many species, so much responsibility. "We do what we always intended," she said. "We teach them. We show them there is a better way. And then when they are ready, we give the power back." Frowned, "And if they make the same mistakes again?" "Then we will be watching," replied. "Humanity will always be watching, but we will not rule. We will not conquer. We will be guardians, not masters." It was a difficult path, a dangerous path, but it was the only path that led to true peace. 3 months after the trial, a new Galactic Council formed. The chamber looked different now. Human architects had redesigned it. Instead of the old system where some species floated above others, all representatives now sat at the same level. Equal. No one above, no one below. President Park stood before the assembly. Representatives from 400 species attended. Many species had lost the privilege of council membership due to their actions in the war. Others had been granted new seats. They who had tried to help Earth secretly were given a position of honor. "We gather here today not as conquerors and conquered," began. "We gather as beings who have learned a hard lesson together. The old council failed because it valued power over justice. It valued control over freedom. That system is dead. Today we build something new." She paused, letting her words sink in. Every alien in the chamber watched her carefully, some with hope, some with fear, all with uncertainty. "Humanity offers the following terms," continued. "They are not negotiable. They are the price of peace." The chamber held its breath. First, immediate and complete military disarmament of all aggressive species. The Empire, the Dominion, and the Collective will reduce their military forces to defensive levels only. Human inspectors will verify compliance. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The representative, a young woman named who had replaced her mother, the Empress, stood. "We accept these terms," she said clearly. Nodded and continued. "Second, reparations will be paid to Earth over the next 50 years, not in wealth but in technology and knowledge. You will share your advanced sciences with humanity. You will help us grow." This caused more discussion. Technology was power. Sharing it was difficult, but compared to continued war, it was acceptable. Third, human military bases will be established in every sector of the galaxy. These bases will serve as peacekeeping forces. Their purpose is not occupation but protection. They will ensure no species attempts to conquer another. The representative raised one of his 4 arms. "For how long will these bases remain?" "Until they are no longer needed," answered. "That decision will be made jointly by the Council, not by Earth alone." This surprised many aliens. They had expected humanity to seize permanent control. Fourth, Earth will hold veto power over all major council decisions for a period of 100 years. This is to ensure the mistakes of the past are not repeated. After 100 years, this power will be reviewed. More surprise. 100 years seemed long to humans but was barely a moment to species that lived for. It was reasonable, fair, even. And finally said, humanity offers a gift. She gestured to Doctor, who stepped forward carrying a data device. Was a medical researcher who had spent his life studying alien biology. For the past 20 years, explained, we have been studying the blight. This disease affects 40 species across the galaxy. It has killed billions. The Council claimed there was no cure. They were wrong. He activated the device. Holographic displays showed complex molecular structures. We found a cure, we tested it, it works, and we are giving it to you freely. No payment, no conditions. Every species affected by the blight will receive the treatment they need. The chamber erupted. Representatives from affected species began shouting questions. Some were crying. The blight had ravaged their worlds for generations, and humanity was simply giving away the cure. Waited for the noise to quiet. We will also share the research process. We will teach your scientists how we found the cure, so that next time you can solve such problems yourselves. Later, after the formal sessions ended, small groups gathered to discuss what had happened. The mood was strange. Humans had won total victory. They could have demanded anything. They could have enslaved entire species. Instead, they offered mercy and shared technology. Ambassador Davin from the species approached Admiral in a quiet corridor. I do not understand, Davin said honestly. Why do you give so much? Why do you take so little? You earned the right to rule the galaxy. Smiled tiredly. We never wanted to rule, we wanted to live free, and we believe every species deserves that same freedom. But what if species betray you? What if they use the technologies you share against you? Then we will deal with it, said. But we will not become tyrants to prevent possible betrayal. That path leads only to more war. Davin shook his head in wonder. Your species is very strange. Perhaps, agreed. But we learned something important from our own history. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We refuse to fall into that trap. Months passed. The new council began its work. Human peacekeepers established bases across the galaxy. At first, many species viewed them with suspicion, but the humans proved true to their word. They did not conquer, they did not exploit, they protected. When pirates attacked a colony, human ships responded and drove them off. When a plague struck a world, human medical teams arrived to help. Slowly, trust began to build. Captain, who had led so many raids during the war, retired from active military service. He established a diplomatic academy on Earth where humans and aliens studied together. They learned each other's languages, each other's cultures. They prepared for a future where understanding replaced fear. Commander Shin, the psychological warfare expert, became an ambassador. She traveled to alien worlds and listened to their concerns. She helped broker disputes. She showed that the same skills used for war could also be used for peace. Private, the android who had saved alien children, became a symbol. Aliens called her the Bridge because she represented both human and machine. She proved that beings of different origins could work together. The Empire transformed under Young's leadership. She publicly apologized to humanity and to all species her mother had threatened. She opened borders to trade and cultural exchange. She dismantled the military machine her people had built over. My mother believed in strength through conquest, said during a historic speech. I believe in strength through cooperation. Humanity defeated us in war, but they are teaching us how to win at peace. 20 years passed. A full generation grew up in the new galaxy. Children who had known only peace. Humans and aliens who studied together, worked together, lived together. President was old now. Her hair had gone completely white, but she still attended council sessions. And on this day, she made an announcement that shocked the galaxy once again. "The human veto power will end today," said. "We were given 100 years, but we do not need them. The Council has proven itself capable of self-governance. The peacekeeping bases will remain, but only with Council approval. Humanity will take our place as equals among you, not as masters above you." Admiral, also old now, stood beside her. He looked at the council chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. "We did not fight a war to rule you," he said. "We fought a war to free everyone. That includes freeing you from us." The vote was unanimous. All species agreed to accept humanity as equal partners in the council. No special privileges, no veto power, just another species among many. But everyone understood the truth. Humanity had earned something more valuable than power. They had earned respect. They had earned trust. They had earned friendship. And scattered across the galaxy on human peacekeeping bases, soldiers stood watch. They were not there to conquer. They were there to remember, to ensure that the mistakes of the past would never happen again. In a quiet moment, and stood together on Earth, looking up at the stars. "Do you think it will last?" asked. "The peace we built?" Smiled. "Nothing lasts forever. There will be problems, conflicts, maybe even wars, but we gave them something important." "What?" "We showed them there is another way. We showed them that strength does not require cruelty. That power does not require domination. That peace is not weakness." She paused. "They voted to subjugate us because they thought we were violent and dangerous. They were right. We are dangerous, but not in the way they thought." Nodded slowly. "We are dangerous to tyrants, to oppressors, to those who would take freedom from others." "Exactly," said. "And that is the lesson that will echo through the galaxy for generations. Not the lesson of our weapons or our ships, but the lesson of our choices. We had the power to rule. We chose not to. That choice, that restraint, that mercy, that is the most powerful weapon of all." Above them, stars twinkled in the night sky. Each star was a sun. Each sun had worlds. And on those worlds, billions of beings lived free because humanity had chosen mercy over vengeance. That was the true victory. Not the battles won, not the enemies defeated, but the future built. A future where 846 species no longer feared humanity. They respected humanity, and that made all the difference.